Joe Englehart, Middle East Institute. Could you talk a little bit more about the kind of people you were polling? It sounds an awful lot like a lot of the questions you're asking are pretty sophisticated for a very broad population that has the kind of educational background that Egypt has. And it would be helpful for us in understanding this. And at the same time, to what extent did the kind of answers you get vary according to either socioeconomic or educational class? Thank you.
Well, these are... sorry, excuse me.
Andrea Rue, MEI. My question will go very well with this one. I want to ask about the meaning of Sharia to the people you polled, because it has many meanings. It can mean a constitution, it can mean personal status law. And I know that other polls have shown that people think of the meaning of Sharia as a just and well-governed concept. So that's my question.
First of all, in terms of the sample, these are representative samples. Some of them were just urban, some of them are nationwide. These are ideas that do float around in Egyptian society, though they may seem somewhat obscure from here. It doesn't mean that everybody answering had a good sense of them, but people did answer. We didn't have large numbers refusing to participate. So these are, I think they do represent issues that people, talk about. As far as the demographic breakouts, you always like to think that the younger people are more globalized and more secular and getting more assimilated to liberal ideas, but that's actually not the case. There are not high degrees of variation, but actually younger people tend to be, and more educated people are not less responsive to Islamist ideas. But the younger people are also very responsive to liberal ideas. So, but it's not that just with time this Islamism is going to go away. If anything, it seems to be moving in the opposite direction. Now, the definition of Sharia, yes, that's an idea that we wanted to explore. Is Sharia just kind of justice and goodness and things like that? And so we asked about different kinds of laws and how important socially oriented objectives are and things like that. And it's more than that. I mean, we're talking, if you ask about stoning adulterers and things like that, you do get majorities endorsing those ideas. So it's not Sharia as a term means something that is, it doesn't mean all these things that we in the West associate, like stoning adulterers. That's not what comes to mind. What comes to mind is justice and truth and so on, piety. But I don't think we should just shrug it off and say, oh well, that's just a way of talking, because there is an element of looking to the Quran, looking to Islamic law as a basis for law, and those can come into some conflict with liberal ideas.
Just quickly on, the poll that Steve does on this is actually supported by other polls in terms of on religion particularly. I mean, the Gallup poll, which has a measure of religiosity of how people describe themselves in terms of religion, and has, I think, over 140 countries in that big international poll. Egyptians are the most religious, self-identified religious people in the entire sample of over 140. So there is a religiosity. Now, how it relates to politics is something else. And you could even argue that part of that, this has been an argument that was made in Syria about the rise of symptoms of religiosity as a way of defying a regime. Whether or not that was a case in Egypt about empowerment, the slogan, Al-Islam huwa al-hal, Islam is the solution to all your trouble because nobody's got an answer. I don't know. I mean, that's why I say it's fluid. I don't, when you're polling in an environment where people have limited choices, you're going to get one set of answers. When you open up more choices, you're going to have a different priorities, and I don't know what these are going to be. So I'm sure Egyptians are religious, but I'm willing to bet that if we have an open environment, these numbers are going to look different.
We're going to take some questions from the overflow room. The first two are for you, Shibley, and they relate to Israel. Why are Egyptians, this is from Barry Schweid of the Associated Press, and he asks, why are Egyptians so suspicious of Israel? Is it based on wars or religion or what? And before you answer that, another one that's sort of related. A woman asking, during the recent bout of protests, no one was protesting over the Palestinian cause or lack of a state for Palestine. Civilians are protesting for themselves, their individual freedoms. To what extent is the U.S. Congress and administration's obsession with the Israel-Palestinian issue misrepresenting the true interests and priorities of the people? So just hold on those two. And then quickly for you, Stephen. Mr. Kull, you said that Egyptians demonstrated some of the most dissatisfaction with their government of any people around the world, so why didn't we see this revolution coming? Let's start with you, Shibley.
Yeah. First of all, let me start with the last question first, which is, the symbols, what people did. I mean, one of the powerful, and this is what I argued early on, don't make this about foreign policy. Don't make this about America, because it wasn't. I mean, these are people who knew exactly what they wanted. They wanted change. They said Egypt above all, peaceful. They put ideology out. They didn't want the ideology to distract. They didn't want them to. It was very conscious, actually, very conscious. It's not that people didn't say Israel. And there were people, and we're already seeing it. Even Ayman Noor yesterday, not the Islamists are already making the issue of Israel up in the debate today. But even people who are secular, like Ayman Noor, has said we need to rethink or repackage or reinterpret or rewrite, I think, something like renegotiate the Camp David Accords with Israel. So we're seeing that already beginning. And trust me, it's going to, if we have democratic elections and campaigning, that's going to be a huge issue. And anybody who doesn't know that, I think doesn't know how this works. But as I said, it's not an issue that mobilized. This was, when I say a dignity revolution, I mean it with all that comes with it. It's the internal, it's the domestic, it's the lack of empowerment, it's the resignation, it's the humiliation, it's the hopelessness, and it's the identity above all. People want to be proud of who they are and of their country and of their national and identity. And it was getting to a point where it's harder for them to be. And I think that encompasses foreign policy issues, it encompasses domestic issues. Now,